I'm delighted to be joined on the line by Anthony Honeyball, who trains out of Potwell Farm down in Mosterton in Dorset. And Anthony's kindly agreed to talk us through some of his horses for the 2015-16 season. So, hello Anthony.
Hi Matt.
Thanks a lot for coming on to talk about your horses. And if it's okay, we'll whiz through them in alphabetical order, starting with a nice bumper horse called Akaju DBF.
Oh yeah. Akaju. We must admit he was a lovely debut at Fontwell. Sort of stayed on, showed a little bit of speed, a little bit of greenness turning and stayed on nicely. Finished third there. I actually thought he'd go very close in this bumper at Newton Abbott. I was quite happy to accept that the Philip Hobbs horse in that bumper would probably win. It was odds on. It's quite a nice mare, but I kind of thought we'd be in a shake-up, and he only finished sixth and didn't really get involved that day, albeit off a slow pace, dropped in. So a little bit disappointing there, but he's a nice horse and really athletic, good size, and does work well at home. So we'll be starting off. I think we'll leave bumpers behind now, and we'll go novice hurdling with him. So he'll be in a maiden hurdle within the next sort of 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, on his bumper form, it looks like he's not necessarily going to win a maiden hurdle. I mean, it'd be nice to think we could, but looking at a handicap probably later in the season, or maybe when the maidens calm down a little bit, slightly easier maiden hurdle later on. It's going to be very hot just now, but still a nice horse with lots of upsides and very unexposed, and like I say, athletic and a good workhorse. So hopeful there's races to be won with him.
Okay, Act Now, so Mare, she won a bumper, and she's taken her time to get it together over hurdles so far.
Yeah, nice mare. I mean, you're never quite sure. I mean, like when we first ran on heavy ground at Wincanton in a what seemed quite a nice bumper there. We thought it was going to be tough, and she really proved that she loved that ground. I never would have thought she'd want ground that heavy. So we kind of rolled with that. And
was that the race where the winner swerved right the way across the track?
Yeah, it was. It was
See the World, I think it was
unfortunate, really, but yeah, it was. It was the Emma Laval horse. It took the gloss off our run a little bit because we kind of ran really well. Like the rest of them were not really anywhere. It was miles back to the fourth, as I can remember, and she came up there. Then this horse sort of swerved off, and I thought, well, hang on, we could nearly win this. And that one swerved off, stopped, had a cup of tea, came back in, and made up about 20 lengths up the straight and came by us, and as if we were stood still. And there we are, just honestly ploughing on, keeping going, and it rushed past us and won. And obviously it was impressive that it could do that, but I was just a bit kind of said to Aidan Coleman, the jockey, the winner, so thanks very much for that. You know, it made ours look took the gloss off our run really, but we were very pleased with her. You know, she did her job properly and kept galloping, and so we just tried to find we just kept looking around for a bumper that would cut up a bit, and of course knowing that she'd gone heavy meant that if we went to Fontwell, and no one really wanted to run on the ground. It was very heavy, and she just did her thing. You know, it wasn't until she turned in, and once she got on top that day, she really went away well. So we didn't see her as a listed type of bumper horse, thing like that. We thought we'd won it was our fourth bumper. We'd got our bumper won. Delighted with that. I mean, there wasn't a lot of time left in the season, so we gave her a couple of runs in novice hurdles. She was a bit big and leggy, and took her time to get her from A to B over the hurdles, and the ground had dried up a touch, but she's gradually getting there. And again, Newton Abbott the other day, too sharp. Ended up on the ground. It was too sharp. They said it was good to soft, good in places, and barely soft enough for her. Really, only just safe for her to run. Got badly outpaced around there, but I'm just hopeful tomorrow that she'll at least have a handicap mark to work with, and we'll be looking at aiming at maybe sort of a little bit further on heavy ground. Once that ground comes, like she'll have a little break now, and then when the ground comes soft and heavy, I can't risk her on anything much quicker than soft, and she'll be hopefully be away. Yeah, hopefully be a nice mare. Nice attitude, and the jumping's getting better all the time. So
okay.
Quite nice.
So she's one for softer
Yeah,
ground.
she's one for the middle of the winter, sort of end of November, December, January. That, you know, we should have some fun with her as the season goes on.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Amber Alert.
Yeah. I actually the opposite. I mean, we ran her on heavy ground at Uttoxeter, and she travelled quite handy in that race. It's always just a little bit keen, just a little bit, not running away, but just a little bit keen, and ended up getting quite tired. But I was quite pleased the way she boxed on. She only finished seventh of 12, I think it was, but
Eighth.
Oh, 8th of 12, yeah. So quite a bit of promise there. We like her. She's worked really well at home, and we were very hopeful going into that race of a really good run. And I think I was just very, very happy to forgive her. It wasn't a shocking run, but I was just very, very happy to forgive that run. I'm expecting her to run. Like I say, she's a good, solid workhorse that relaxes in her work and really stretches and gallops. And I think she'll be a different horse the next time we run her, especially if we can just get sort of good to soft ground, something like that.
Will she go hurdling now,
No,
or will she have another run in a bumper?
No, I'm really keen to give her another run in a bumper. I actually still own 3/4 of her, so I'm keen for her to show what she can, give people a bit of a view on what she can do, and then hopefully that will help me with the other shows I have available in her. So really keen to show people what she can do in another bumper. Hopefully I've got it right and she'll run well in another bumper, and then we can sort of see. I mean, if she runs really well and does go and win, then we could go for a listed mare's bumper. If she just runs sort of middle of the road, it's a good experience, and then we can go novice hurdling with her.
Okay, well that certainly implies that you think she's a good bit better than she showed.
Yeah, I'm really not worried about that. In actual fact, she was hanging up the straight, and the next day she just tweaked the muscle behind, so we were kind of even more. We didn't need to see that the next day, but having seen that, we were like, well, we're even more sort of happy to put a line for it and think, well, it wasn't.
Sure.
It wasn't an amazing experience for her running on heavy ground around there and tweaking something and hanging up the straight, but at the same time, it was a day out, and it got her out of here and gave her something else to think about, and we put her away after that anyway. So. Yeah.
Okay. And another mare, and one who's run with a lot of promise though without winning so far, is Anda de Grise.
Yeah.
Easy for me to say.
Yeah. She has. She's 1,000,000% genuine. We wouldn't have a more genuine animal in the yard. She still thinks she's quite fast, but actual fact she's an okay traveller, but she's quite one pace at the back in the races. But I think we'll let her just stay at 2.5 again now. She ran quite well last time. I bet the run that pleased me the most last season, other than seeing her come back from a nasty injury and the first time out running well, I think the first time out last season was in a bumper at Toaster, but that was pleasing. But then after that, she sort of was very flat and low over her hurdles and didn't really get. She's a really good jumper, but she just didn't translate it to the racecourse. And then the last time I was pleased with that. She jumped really well at Fontwell. On ground there would have been plenty quick enough for her, and kind of didn't hit that flat spot that she's done in other races, and kind of held her position and stayed on resolutely up the straight. So so based on that, I'm happy. I'm happy going into this season with that experience under her belt. There should be races to win with her. I mean, she's high 90s now, and she really doesn't deserve. She barely. I mean, I think there's enough upside about her to win off that mark, but it's still, plenty high enough on what she's done. But
yeah.
So
would you say
she's not that big? So you have to aim her. I wouldn't necessarily go to 0 to 100 because she's not that big, and I'd like to get. So I've probably got to go up a little grade.
Right. So less weight.
You could run off 11, 12 and a 0 to 100, something like that, with a £7 claim on her maybe. But anyway, she's a nice mare. I really like her, and she's very genuine, and I think I'll be surprised if we can't win 1 or 2 races with her this time round.
Right, and she'd be 2.5 on the soft side.
Yeah, so it's a soft. It could be as soft as you like with her. She really does cope with that. Yeah. I don't mind anything from good to soft through to heavy. it'd be fine, and 2.5, 2.5, and moving up to 3 miles at some stage. I would imagine she'd simply be going up anyway.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the older fellows in the yard is Astafer.
Yeah.
He's won 3 for you,
Yeah.
but not for a while now. What are his chances this season?
Well, the owners have been amazingly patient with the horse. I mean, we've had a bit of a sort out with him again. I mean, he's now had he had a bit of lameness one season that put him out for the season. He's had a colic operation. He's had two wind ops, and we've just and as I say, we've gone back to basics, had another look at him, and decided to do another breathing up on him over the summer. So he's a little bit behind. It doesn't matter as it happens because he wants soft ground, but he's only just kind of there now, so ready to go now. So he's dropped to 106, and I said to the owners that rather than go pointing straight away, we may as well try his mark at 106 because.
Yes, because he was rated 140
yeah,
a couple of years
really
ago,
high.
wasn't he?
In fact,
So
I think he might have run, and he never ran off it, but he might have been 147 or something silly after Foss, but he never ran off it because he was 8 pounds well in, and that's why I took a chance in the Welsh National with him because he was off 139 in that, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
And he was only a 5-year-old, and they said, 5-year-olds don't win this, and they're absolutely right. But this with him anyway, but he ran really well, and these problems that have affected him since that was the first time they really reared their head. His breathing got a bit rough. He was in third place, turning out the bottom, turning for home. I think he was still in third, and he just literally switched off and just conked out. And I got to hand it to horse. He's 110% genuine animal because he's had a lot of things happen to him, and he's still keen as anything on the job. But he's got
I mean, he could be really well handicapped now, couldn't he?
I just think, I just think all the things we've done, all the water's gone under the bridge. I think he'll never. I can't see him ever really getting to where he was. But with everything we've done, and everything's been, we've done everything 100% to try and get him back into some sort of form, and the mark's dropped to 106. I think with everything in his favour, we can win 1 or 2 again with a bit of luck. But we always obviously hopefully can be really progressive again. But I think if we could get 1 or 2 wins from him this season, that would have been mission accomplished really, and wouldn't be a bonus if he could go up the grades, a great deal. That would be a bonus. But I think everything in his favour, we can win with him again.
He's quite lightly raced in recent seasons anyway, and like you say, 3 miles soft or heavy, and if he can win, he's got to be close to a mark that he can win off now.
That's it. Yeah, and then if he'll have a couple of runs, and if he doesn't just show something, then he'll go off into point field, I would imagine.
Sure. Okay, next one on the list is a really quite progressive sort, Chill Factor.
Yeah, really good. He made a nice. I mean, he's 1.5 now, and he had some issues. Just over a year ago, we were really struggling to get him to progress. We thought he would progress in handicaps. We thought he'll come to. He had some nice, reasonable bumper form on a bumper well. Anyway, he did get progressive, and we had a lovely run at Cheltenham this time last year in a pretense after he'd won 3 in a row, and he finished 6th. He jumped probably 2 out in front and jumped the last with them, and just faded up the run-in and probably found his level there over hurdles anyway. And then we went into the wilderness again over the winter where the ground got soft and wasn't really any decent ground to run him on through the thick end of the winter. And anyway, we got him back on song. He ran well at Market Raisin actually. Boxing Day, I think it was, and he got pulled up 3 out. The jockey thought something was wrong, and there wasn't anything wrong, but just one of those things. So he ran a nice race, so he was first chase, and would have been first free that day. And then another lull, and we ran him at New Nabbit, and he won a £10,000 chase there. I was really pleased with him. Jumped fantastic, jumped immaculate, like an old handicapper. So he's still a novice for the whole season. So I think he was a little bit was a bit concerned about his legs after that. It was good to firm at Newton Abbot, and they've settled down really well, and they look really good now. So fingers crossed, we'll be fine. He's cantering again, and before the worst of the heavy ground kicks in, we might just have a run in a novice chase somewhere. See where he lies.
Okay.
We're not really sure. Like, his mark is just,
he's rated
134 over fences, isn't he?
134. Wow.
I mean, it's
So
very
he's gone
high.
up 12.
The only thing it does do is just say, well, he does jump well, so we can go to nice places and take on novice chases here or there, and see where he works out. And smaller fields as a novice, that would be nice for him.
Yeah, and he'd want, ideally, I guess he'd want genuine good ground.
Yeah, good to soft would be fine. I mean, we ran him on good to firm good at Newton Abbot, and I mean, that would be a different ball game to that type of ground during the winter, but it was genuinely quick ground, and we got a bit of a warning that day, so we know we can't get away with that. But I think, like you say, genuinely good ground through the winter, good to soft to be fine, because it slowed the tempo of the race down, and there was a good bit of dig in it when he went Boxing Day to Market Raising. It was decent ground, but it was still, there was some cut in it, so that's fine. He's got a bit of class. I don't know quite what I'm going to do. I think I'll probably just try and find a small field novice chase when the novice chasing sort of calms down a little bit, and then see that it might even be he's going to be really good, going to be fantastic, and we can go for something like the 4 miler at Cheltenham if his season.
Do you think he would stay that far?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think the tempo of the race would suit him. I think all the other races at that type of meeting, they'd just be, obviously they're all going to be lots of runners, but I think they'd just be the handicaps there. I think he'd need one more run in a normal chase before he qualified, and he's just about to scrape in maybe one of them. But he's not great in big fields, we don't think, unless he can get a really bit of space and bit of daylight.
Right. So we shouldn't be backing him for the Scottish National then?
No. One race I did really want to go for was the summer national, but obviously because he was just a bit, we couldn't kick on from Newton Abbot, so but I know that's going to be plenty of runners as well, but he won twice round New Toxtone over hurdles, and I thought if he could find a nice little pocket in that race and just fiddle away around, popping around, hopefully that could be a race for him. It just depends really. We have a light campaign over the winter and maybe just pick that race out as something to go for next summer, or we'll just have to see. I just want to see how he does in the next few chases, really.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on. The next one has got an entry this week, and I have to admit, I think he's been quite harshly handicapped, and that's City Supreme. He's also been a bit unlucky so far as well, it's fair to say. Yeah,
he's shown glimmers in his bumpers. Debut at Cheltenham was a nice run, boxed on well, and below that in his next bumper, but not disgraced, went fourth there, beaten a long way, but kept galloping in his second bumper. He was, he's a very good jumper, but he's jumping really, things were taking time. He's quite a alert, quite a sharp sort of horse, quite a spooky animal. So first few hurdles he got from A to B and was worried about all the other horses not really getting on and racing. But yeah, he got a mark. I can't remember what his debut mark was, but
103. Yeah, he was off at Wincanton. I was there that day.
Yeah, and he was immediately favourite in a big field, and fell at the first, didn't he?
I think it was the second.
Yeah, and then we managed to find,
very, very early.
and then because we knew he did cope with heavy ground. He does cope with heavy ground if he has to. I kind of went for another race at Wincanton, and there was like 7 runners in it. Well, no, it might have even been 5 or 6 runners, but there was no appetite to run in it from anyone because it was just so heavy. And we thought, well, actually, that would be fine for him, and it was 2.6, and he travelled really nicely, jumped quite well, and yeah, still made a few niggly mistakes, but jumped okay, and sort of cruised into straight up sides the eventual winner, and then just got out-battled and outstayed, but ran really well, and he'd have been second, but he got tired, he made a very bad mistake at the last, and ended up third, but the handicapper then shoved him up another £5 for finishing, third, beaten about
15 lengths.
15 lengths. I mean, you make of that what you will. I mean, I calculated it with him, and he'd decided that the mistake at the last, quite a bad, very bad mistake, cost him 10 lengths, and I said to him, does that sound realistic to you? A tired horse that was always going to probably make some sort of fumbling jump at the last, you know, and because he was tired, and you know, to say that cost him 10 lengths, I said seems quite excessive as a bit of a guess. You know, if I was
it's a very strict
guess, I'd say 5 lengths.
Isn't it?
You know, if I'd been a handicap, I think I would have guessed 5 lengths. So I said, you know, it's cost him a good bit, and then work it out from there. But he said it costed 10 lengths. So so anyway, that's by the way, he went up a good bit, and I think yeah, we went up to about 109, and we ran at Fontwell. He ran a nice, really nice race. It doesn't look amazing on paper, but he ran a nice race. Wasn't being too far. It was a bit too short a trip, and he jumped really, really well, travelled well, and just got done for toe. And we were really pleased with that, so we put him away after that. But he'd be sort of 2.5 mile, nice strong gallop in front of him, on, you know, softer ground. Reasonably, you know, soft ground would be spot on.
He's got a couple of entries this week, hasn't he? But I wonder if the
ground-wise he can't run. No.
Yeah. Okay. Next one up is Cresswell Breeze, one of the Cresswells. And what can you tell us about? Is it a her?
Yeah, she won 3 races in a short time last season. Showed a nice bit of bumper form, and showed a little bit in the novice overs, and did actually, to be fair, she did take the hurdle quite well straight away. She jumped nicely, and because of that, she's very professional, and she won her 3 handicaps nicely. Obviously rocketed up to 130, had a go at Newbury in a big race, and kind of, I think we had our fun leading up to that, and it was a bit, so it was a big day there, but she just didn't quite fire that day.
Do you think the ground would have been quick enough for her?
Yeah,
Because
definitely
she was winning on the soft side, wasn't she?
Ideal world, yeah. If it had been her first, when she was off 99, she'd have been fine, but off 130, it was just a little bit. It was just a little bit of a high tempo. So it was a different ball game, really. I just thought she was in such good form. I could envisage her, you know, running very well in it. But anyway, she's back in one piece, and she's been schooling over fences, and we've always viewed her as a chaser, actually. So I'm hopeful. She's going to run on the 6th of November at Fontwell in a Mare's Beginner's Chase there, and you know, we just hope she has a. Well, first and foremost, she just jumps around and enjoys it, really. That'll be the first plan there. But I mean, there's quite a few Mare's Chases thereafter. So hopefully, as the season unfolds, you know, she'll pick up. Hopefully, she'll pick up 1 or 2 of those. But I mean, I'm sure there'll be some really tough opposition in, you know, in a Mare's level weights Beginner's Chase and Novice Chases. But some hurdlers rated higher than her. But she, you know, hopefully she'll do well in those.
Yes. Well, I mean, like you say, those 3 wins came in quick succession, and then it wasn't that long before she had the run in the listed race, and it would have been quick enough. So.
Yeah, I'm never sure how that works really with the horse when you win 3 quickly. It's trial and error, really. I mean, some would go and win a 4th in a week after that, and would win a 5th. But some of them, you just think when you stop, you almost feel like you want 4 or 5 weeks just to stop, give them a few easy weeks, gradually build them back up for another one, rather than sort of 3 weeks you kind of stop for a week, and then before you know you're onto it. And I think it's difficult to know. I mean, whether while they're skimming along and winning, their adrenaline's up and they're on good form and their confidence is high, and they seem to be able to just go, you know, win in quick succession. But when we stopped, it probably would have been nice to have had a couple more weeks. But I think she's okay. I think it's just whatever. She didn't fire on the day. I think there was more to it than those other races. Really.
Irrespective of that, she remains a
we couldn't be that disappointed on that day.
Keep on side in Novice Chases.
No, we wanted her to. Yeah, she'd be nice in Novice Chases, and yeah, we were disappointed on that day. Because, you know, blimey, she's done us proud, you know, and before that, so we weren't. We could cope with that. Sure. Yeah.
The next one then is an unraced lad who I'm hoping might be reasonable at least. His name is East Wing.
Yep. Yeah, he's proving quite forward at the minute. He's cantering up sides. A Winged Love a Wing Love, by the sire Wing Love. They're doing, they've done what he's been. I'm not saying he's an underrated sire. He's just a kind of not.
He's quite unfashionable,
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's not. But people now, if you mention him, they're very much. Oh, he's actually done well. He doesn't get quite the credit he deserves. He's got some very good horses around. When you start to look through it, there's some very nice animals around by Wing Level. Has been, and there's still a few around. There's a few still there. So, yeah, his siblings, sort of full brothers, they've just got bits and pieces of form. Some of them have won bumpers. One has won a hurdle, and they've just done all right. They've got to race course, and they've been competitive. And so we're hopeful he can be a nice horse for a bumper. He's quite a handy horse, so just a nice size, and it should be some fun. Looking forward to bumpers with him, and then certainly that's all it'll be about this season. Really, it's plan A, B, and C. Just to go some bumpers this season. If we can get 1, 2, or 3 in, that would be amazing, and he'd be free rising force. So yeah, so looking forward to him. He's part of our next batch of youngsters coming through.
But so far so good.
Yeah, he's doing plenty actually. Yeah.
And just to clarify, because I haven't made it absolutely clear on this call, he's one of the GG's syndicated horses with Anthony, so he's obviously very close to my and a number of other listeners' hearts. We've been to see him. He looks fantastic, and as Anthony says, he's surprisingly forward, I guess. Well, not surprisingly, but pleasingly forward at this stage.
Yeah, plenty of and plenty of sort of greenness to him, but he's really willing, and yeah, he's he's doing plenty of work really for us. So at the minute we're pressing on.
Yeah, long may it continue. Okay, the next one is the first of a number of Fountains horses, and this one's Fountains Blossom. Yeah,
she will be entered in some handicaps now. I'm just waiting to see if she does have a handicap mark. She's been a little bit. She must have been very much on the handicapper's radar. She's running 5 novice hurdles now, completed all of them. So I'm hoping that he's going to see fit to give her a mark. I mean, she is only. She's a nice mare. Like, she's very genuine, and the dam was very genuine, and won 5 and got it. In fact, nearly ran in the Potemps. Got balloted last to get balloted out of the Potemps, the dam of her. So she should flourish when she goes over a little bit further, and in the weeks to come, hopefully we'll get a mark, and that'll help, because we can just avoid some of the artillery coming out in novices, and just give them there a fair chance. 1, 2 bumpers.
What sort of ground would she want?
Well, that's the thing. I'm desperate to have a mark, because she does want good ground.
Right, okay.
She'd do fine. She'd be fine on good stuff, but I want to get some runs into her before, say, December, in some handicaps, and hope to pick one up, and then we can kind of give her a little break through the winter, and then we might try and run her in some through the winter, but basically thinking that from March onwards she'll be coming into her own again.
Okay. And she's currently leased to the Anthony
I
Racing
leased her
Club.
from the owner breeder, and I've got her in the racing club. So
do you want to just say a couple of words about the racing club, because a lot of people listening won't know anything about it, so it's worth touching on what the deal is basically.
I mean, it's we normally try and make sure we've got 3 horses involved. I try and have. I mean, in all these sort of racing clubs, you really need at least 1 or 2 that can just get on and run a bit. But I'm trying to put in a really exciting youngster, and we're working on that in a minute. Just to come through behind the ones that are running regularly, so people get regular chance to get out. I mean, we just it's £500 a year to be a member. You get regular emails. We make sure that everyone, regardless of how many people can make it on the day, be it 2 or be it 30, we make sure that everyone gets a badge, an owner's badge, all the members, ballot in that respect. And it's just I think it's just an affordable way of getting started off, and then see if you like it, and see how much you enjoy it, and then if it's something members enjoy,
absolutely.
They might step into a syndicate horse. It's still affordable, but it's just maybe £6 people instead of a club scenario. So
Exactly.
that's the way the model for us. That's the way it works for us. We try and
yeah, sure. And as a club, I've been a club member, a racing club member of yours for a few years now, and you know, it is great fun, and the club members are really into their racing. Racehorse ownership is not, you know, it is quite an expensive hobby. Maybe not compared with smoking or drinking, perhaps, but you know, it's still quite expensive. So, working out at about £40 a month, it's a very cost-effective way of doing it. And my experience of the guys in the club has been that it's, you know, they're all good fun and they love their racing. So it's a very sociable activity as well. And I'm quite excited to hear that you're going to have you're looking around for a nice
I've had
junior to join the seniors.
Yeah, I've had a few old chaps that we had, old horses that we had in the racing club that could have won us several races, but you know, just they you know, it wasn't fair. They had a few niggly problems, and they weren't going to be able to.
Sure, but you've had some great horses in there as well. Like Man of Leisure was, you know, obviously a flag bearer. I mean, he was a fantastic stick, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, and he had more races to win really, but that was fine. I always knew I was a kind of an injury like that away from, and it was just, thank God, it was just something that something and nothing really, but it's just enough to make my mind up that he'd done his bit and he'd won 6 for us and picked him up. It's just a perfect horse for that scenario, perfect for the yard, for us, like, and for the racing club, you know, just to win 6 and 5 in, I don't know, it's about 5 races, well, 3 in 6 days and 5 in about 5-6 weeks, and then had a little problem, came back and won another one, and never, you know, he never really let me down. You know, he's an amazing horse. And one day, you know, he won a hunter chase for us last season, but he just wasn't, you know, neither of them just. There was time to move them on, and they've gone to new homes. One's gone, and Man Leisure's gone, and he's got a nice new home, and the other one's being rehomed on Wednesday. And that's to say,
and that's the good news, isn't it?
Well,
it's like, you know, really they can't. If the bad news is they can't race anymore, the good news is they're rehomed and they'll have a nice retirement.
Yeah, no, and I've made sure, you know, that they're kind of in their passports. You know, they're not going to race, they're not going to turn up at a meeting again because like I say, times are here, and they might come right in a lot of time, but I don't want someone else to get tempted to race them. So they're very much, you know, but they're going to be used. You know, they're going to do something. They're going to be ridden around and made use of. So that's good. But just not racing. And I'd say I got Fountain's Fly Past. We will talk about in a bit, that he's coming through and to replace. But I'm thinking, you know, perhaps we ought to be looking at we're looking at perhaps leasing a young, well-bred youngster or something, you know, to look forward to whilst the other ones are running regularly. But you know, it's it'd be good to get some more quality in.
That leads us nicely onto Fountain's Fly Past. Just before we talk about that one, I'll put some details underneath this recording on the on my website, so people can click through if they're interested in a racing club, and there'll be more details there. So that's that then. Fountain's Fly Past. Yeah,
he is at that stage now. He's definitely races. I mean, we ran him in point-to-points for just to kind of gently get him back into a bit of form, and it was going to look after a few of the girls in the yard. Well, he managed to. He actually jumped really, really well in his point-to-points, and he just kept the young riders that were riding, and he unseated a few of them, like right at the end of the race when he'd run really well, and we'd had a few little dramas, and but he'd shown he was in good form, and his last run in the point-to-point, he finished second behind one called Posh Totty that won 2, 3 or 4 last week. He certainly won. It's a multiple winner of point-to-points, and he finished second behind that, and he very much had to be just held on to and schooled home over the last 4 because he's jumping just to give him a bit of a chance, just to make sure he got round, basically. And I sort of got fed up with running at, you know, for not too much prize money there and risking him. So I thought, you know, he went back in the racing club and ran an £8,500 hurdle at Uttoxeton, finished second, so very pleased with that. Ran okay at Frosthouse next time out, finished 6th. And so he's very much there. He is a good ground horse, but not good to firm. You know, a winter good ground horse, good to soft, be fine. And
Because he'd be eligible for, I don't know if he'd be good enough, but he'd be eligible for the veterans races as well, wouldn't he?
yeah, he would. I think it's just the chase category for veterans.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So
Because he's 11
if we had
rising
a
12
veterans
now.
hurdle, yes, he'd be very much. I mean, he's
Yeah.
about 100, I think he's 112, 113 now. He still ran very well last. And look, he's a very handy horse for the racing club to have up our sleeve.
Sure. And when would he be ready to run?
Well, I've actually got to get him back in, replaced now, and bring him in. Just making sure we're just making room for him now within the racing club frame. So he'll come in very soon, and look for some sort of reasonable ground, good to soft handicap hurdles. Might try a beginner's chase. If we do well with him, and he's coming along well, we might try a beginner's chase maybe when the season changes. After a bit of a winter hurdling, might go beginner's chase May, June, July sort of time. Go for beginners, but yeah, he still has, he does have plenty to give still. So
great. The last of the Fountains.
Probably be part of the racing club when he just come back.
Yeah. Okay. Fountains Windfall is a much younger horse.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Well, he's full brother to Fountains Blossom. He'd been working sort of okay at home, and certainly no more than that. We ran him at Fontwell in his first bumper and came off the bridle circuit to go a little bit, but he was bang. After a little bit of a nudge along, he came right back on the bridle, and he just, couldn't believe it. He cruised away from them, and then quickened. Stayed on very strongly at the straight, won 11 lengths, and he might. I was looking to run really in a little bumper again, prove again that he's a nice horse, win that, and then go for the Paddy Power listed bumper, but with times against us really and grounds against us. So the provisional plan is to go to Cheltenham on the 24th, but the first Cheltenham meeting, there's a £10,000 bumper there, which actually the champion bumper horse won last year, as David Pipes. But
yeah, Moon Racer.
That won it last year. I mean,
yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, and then the year before that, the Rebecca Coates horse won it the year before that. It was a Carnegie, I think it's called. So it is a good bumper, but I suppose we can take it on. If he wins that, we can go for a listed bumper at Ascot middle of December, and if he's mid-div, we could just give him a little break and then find another normal bumper before going hurdling with him.
Sure. But I mean, pitching at those sort of races, you rate him pretty highly, or at least on potential, you rate him.
Yeah, and I feel like if there's any horse you were going to pitch in at that level immediately, you certainly couldn't be accused of being a bit mad to do it. He won his bumper 11 lengths, and we don't know how that will work out, that form, but it doesn't really matter because he just won as he liked, and he took him half a circuit to pull him up. It took Rachel half a circuit to pull him up. Once he got going, he flew down the back again, down the back straight.
Yeah.
So
okay,
he
that's
just won
very exciting.
very, very well, and you just never quite know. It might be a go in there and he'll be found out, but he certainly knows enough now, and he's done enough to have a go. I say I'm normally one for just making 100% sure and giving him another run, but time-wise it just doesn't quite work. So we'd probably go to Cheltenham, the first meeting at Cheltenham, and then see after that.
Yep. Okay. Moving on then. Next one is a much more exposed horse, but a very capable one on his day as well. That's Horus Hazel.
Yeah. I think he worked his way up to 110. So not too bad, because he started handicap life off in 99 and really disappointed us at Bangor when we put blinkers on and took them off. Went back to basics, just took them off, and he enjoyed himself a bit more at Toaster, but the ground went really soft on the day, so that didn't suit. And then another little break, and Sam Fiston gave him a really good ride at Newton Abbott.
I remember that. He was round the outside.
Never ridden it before, and just kind of I just said to him just to try and get him to enjoy himself, and just another step forward. If he could just enjoy his racing, because he's got lots of talent, and he's got an engine. He just seemed to be getting really, I don't know. He just wasn't really going for it. You know, he just really was backing off and not enjoying it. But like, he went to Newton Abbot, and again, it had a bit of rain, but it was more summer conditions. But they had a bit of rain leading up to it, and it went really well. Like, just gave him a really good ride and nursed him into it, and he won it really nicely. And I think he went up a good bit in the weights that day, and
went up £10 for that.
Yeah, and then just ran a very good race again, and mimicked the same ran to exactly the same level again, really. Just bumped into one, ran a really good race, finished second, and the next time. So since when he's had a break, he'll come back into training December for a spring-summer campaign. It'll be a spring campaign particularly, and then see where he's going. If, you know, we'll carry on.
He's another one that wants good to soft.
Sorry?
He wants good or good to soft.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't want it too boggy anyway. He doesn't want winter type ground. He'd be fine on, you know, middle of August, and it's chucked it down with rain on good ground. It ends up soft ground. He'd fly along on it, no problem at all. But middle of the winter where it's genuine, fully soft ground, he wouldn't. Yeah. He'd go on it, but he'd hate it. He'd pulled out a lot of racing if he did that too much.
And a trip-wise, just on the other side of 3 miles?
His sister, that we'll talk about, but his sister Tara Drew, we dropped her back 2.5 miles to get improvement. I don't think the same will happen with him. I think his trip is, I think over 3 miles he can just doss a bit and enjoy himself a bit more. I think it'd be a bit too much gun to the head over 2.5 for him. He wouldn't have enough time to. So I think 3 miles is his trip, and anything over that's fine. I mean, he gets any trip really, but 3 miles is about the right trip.
Yeah. All right. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the next one, because I know he's in the same group of newcomers as East Wing, and his name is Lucerne.
Yeah, he's another nice horse. He's by Network, which is, you know, he's got some very good horses out there.
Princess Sacra.
Princess Sacra, one that always springs to mind, but Ruby Ball, Ruby Light, St. R, that's second in the National. So that was good, probably a tonic that Sire needed, you know, because he's had a bit of it. He's been living off the back of Sprinter a little bit, and you know, to have a couple of Willie Mullins doing well, and then the one finishing second in the National kind of just boosted him a bit. I think probably he certainly isn't as commercial as he was a few years back, but he's proven he can produce top class horses, and you know, I think that I basically got a reason. I paid good money for him at Goff's Land Rover sales, but
what's he like as a
probably reasonable
physical
value,
specimen?
value based on the prices a few years back, for sure.
Yeah. Could you outline what he's like physically?
Yeah, he's 16'2". He's really good, strong limbs, really well put together. Really, he is a forward horse. I mean, he's a good size, but I wouldn't say he's your big backward chasing sort. He is 100% a chasing sort, but he's not like some horses you see. Think he's going to need. He's quite well developed, you know, and he's got a bit of class to him, and you know, I think the world of him, and hopefully it will carry on in that vein. I mean, his galloping is very straightforward. He's very clean in his wind, and he moves, covers the ground, and he's one. You know, I'm thinking I've got high expectations of at the minute.
Yeah, I know, just for the benefit of listeners, I hope you don't mind me saying this. I know from other conversations I've had with you that you really like this lad, and you've got quite high hopes for him going forward.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of shares still available.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested, again, I'll put a link to your website, and people can go and read more on there, or they can ring you up and have a chat. He is I've seen him. And I've seen him work, and he's a lovely, like a properly lovely sort.
His website photo was taken 3 Sundays ago, so it's a bit more up to date. We've updated that on there, so it's, you know, a very recent picture of him, and he's progressed. If you actually saw the first picture of him, it wasn't one. I mean, I knew he was a nice looking horse, but I just looked at it every time I looked at it. I thought he looks nice, but he doesn't do him justice. But this latest one does do him a lot more justice. And let's say he's progressing all the time. There might come a time he's only 3 rising forward. We back off a bit, and you know he'll stop taking massive steps forward. But you know, in the end, I think he's going to be a very nice horse. And I'm hopeful. I'm certainly hopeful I might be able to run him as a juvenile, like up to January 1st. But it's not something that normally ends up happening, but with these 3-year-olds. But with
yeah,
how
you tend to take more of your
is,
time with them.
Both of them, you know, they could end up running in juvenile. I mean, I'm not overly keen to, but if they carry on the way they are, then, you know, I ran 2 horses on debut in that Cheltenham 4-year-old only. It was January the 1st. They just turned 4. 4-year-old only listed bumper, both on debut, and one finished 3rd, one finished 4th. So, you know, it can certainly be done, and it didn't do them any harm. And City Supreme is one of them, and
that's right.
So
it'd be pretty exciting for the owners as well.
It would be, and it'd possibly only be a 10, 12. I mean, it could be. Juvenile bumpers are one of the. To be honest, are one of the biggest waste of times. But that's another story. I mean, there are some forward 3-year-olds that it's great for, but they're always small fields. There's never really a lot of them about ready to run in them. And if I could get 1 or 2 ready for that one at Cheltenham, it's not a bad punt first time out. We were unfortunate. We bumped into the likes of Modus, you know, and that. But, you know, and I think the new one might have run in it as a juvenile. I think he might have done. But it's, you know, it'd probably be 10, 12 runners. It's £20,000. Whether they put it on this season, I don't know yet. I haven't seen the fixtures aren't out for it. But that's something I might do. You know, I might do because it's a win-win situation. As long as they run some sort of a race, they've got it's great to go there. They've got a great future. Lower your expectations next time out, or you win it, and you've got a very valuable commodity there if you can go and win that.
Yeah, sure. It'd be a fantastic sighter. I say, like genuinely. I mean, in terms of East Wing, never mind Lucerne, who might be just a bit, or maybe even potentially a lot better than East Wing. You know, it's a very exciting proposition as an owner, even as something to look forward to as a possibility.
But if they split their ways in terms of, you know, I'm sure they'll be doing a lot of their work together. So it'd be interesting to see if they go their separate ways and run at different times. It'd be nice to compare, you know, where they both lie and see one of them run. But we normally have a reasonable idea we think we have an idea of how the bump horses might run, and you know, time will tell. We've got to get another good
it's
old month.
Still early days, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, we won't burden them any further with expectation. We'll kick on, and a really nice mare, Lily War.
Yeah, so she's coming to the. I feel we're coming to the end of where we can go, but she still has. She has plenty to give. To be fair, she has plenty to give. She's a little bit disappointing at Ludlow, but the other day, and a very unlucky faller at Southall the time before that, when she looked like being, well, she was obviously going to be first or second. I felt that she was going to win that day, but she's really well bred now. As we've kept her over these last few years, her pedigree's really improved. Her Tillertuller Vicar half brothers won at the Cheltenham Festival Grade 3 there, and won a Grade 1 at
Punchestown. Yeah.
Beating Fiddlecrack that day, who'd won the Grade 1, I think it was at Aintree the time before. So she's Vikings Theatre, she's black type in bumpers, hurdles and fences. So there wouldn't be too many mares. It's not winning black type, but she ran to the top level for mares in each category.
But as well as her own. Yeah, as well as her own form, the bloodlines have worked out really well, haven't they? So she's a valuable broodmare.
Yeah, that's really what I'm alluding to, is the fact that, you know, I want to give the owner some fun as long as we can, but I feel like I don't want to either overexpose her. She's kind of been there, done it. I don't want to form pitching off. But we certainly, I'm happy to put a line through Ludlow, different, that type of track, and you won't want too many quite like Ludlow. It's very fast and high tempo, and she's never really proven she can get that trip anyway. It's near enough 3 miles. So you put line through that.
Where are you in terms of, because she only ran last week at Ludlow, didn't she? So where are you with the owners in terms of whether she's still in training, presumably?
Yeah, she's still in training, very much still in training until, and then I think sort of when the ground gets soft later on, we'll have to make some decisions then and try and the National Hunt broodmare market is a hard one to quite sum up. You know, the progeny are making lots and lots of money, but they don't want to give lots and lots of money for the mares necessarily. But you know, it's just catching the right time and the right place really. And if we got a good price.
It's a syndicate horse, isn't it? So
yeah,
they're quite interesting dilemmas to have for a syndicate, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And they, to be fair, this particular syndicate are very much everyone has their input, but they really do take the lead off me, and they're very. It just works very well, and they're all in on the plan. You know, I bought her from the Newbury sales, 30,000. She was there, and we gradually over sort of 6 months syndicated her, and she's given them a tremendous. I mean, we've been to Punchestown, Cheltenham twice, been second twice at Cheltenham with her, and she's won a few little races here or there in lead-ups to these sort of bigger races where she's run well in them. You know, she's run well in them as well. So hers is nothing. That's why I'm very mindful of her and try not to.
Sure.
So yeah, there could be some. You know, it could be another good run or two in her, and we'll see when the winter kicks in. We'll see how we all feel really.
Okay. At the other end, in terms of mares and potential broodmare prospects, at the other end of the spectrum is Miss Mobile. I'm not sure if she's coming back this year or not.
No.
But I know that on her debut she won at Frostlass, and I know that particularly well because the Gigi's Gigi was third behind her that day.
Yeah, and she was very sharp that day. It's actually it just shows horses are just different how they take to it. Like Gigi really hung fire that day. Wasn't quite sure what was going on, and really came through nicely. We were delighted with him, but they've both been off. We don't often get the opportunity to take them to a racecourse to gallop, but we have managed to take them all off in a bunch for about 7 or 8, and really good morning's work. And you know, and he did that, and she did that, and yet on the day she was very, very much like a professional, and he wasn't quite sure, and he was green, and just as you'd really expect a baby to be. But yeah, she's really, really forward going there. She won that really nicely. I think the form worked out great. I think maybe
it has.
One of Peter's Bowen's was second, which went on
Princess Tara.
Yeah. But very, very good run. Had a few issues with her after that, but did have her back for another stint, and finished second to, actually, Ken, it worked out okay. I mean, can't remember his name, it was a Milan filly of Nielsen. Mini Milan. Took a while for her.
That's won a few since, isn't it?
Took her a while. I said to the owners, no way should she have been beaten at Stratford. Nothing done wrong, but just if she was on her A game, she should have been picking up that. Quite dismissive, really, to be fair. But Neil King's he's a good trainer, and I was just
he won 3 on the bounce with Mini Milan, and she's rated 125 now. So
yeah, which is more like what I would. I'm pleased, I'm pleased that's the way it's worked out. But she's it's very what, she hopefully I would imagine that the owners do a really good job at home, just prepping her, so she'll come to us about 3-4 weeks off a run, and as long as they're happy with her, then she'd run another mare's bumper, I'd say, before go, because she's not that big. We'd use her engine to best effect in another bumper, and then go mares novices hurdling with her. So if and when we do get her back, which I think the plan will be for us to have her back this season, then she'd be, worth watching. She's a nice mare.
Yeah. Okay. One I don't know anything about actually is Never Says Never.
Yeah. Showed plenty. I mean, if you look at his form with Bob Buckler early on in his life, he didn't do a lot wrong. You see what he finished around and with, you'd think, he must be a good thing off his mark now.
So he was 3 lengths behind Sergeant Reckless. He was 3 lengths behind Tistery.
Yeah.
He was 13 lengths behind Captain Kelly.
Yeah, he got fired in the deep end
pretty solid
here or there. ended up
third
with,
to Red Sherlock as well.
yeah, he had, I know I had a look for it before we ran him in his first handicap for us. I mean, he has, though, unfortunately, as a lot of horses do, picked up his problems and sort of picked up a few things. He's had a breathing op, and his front tendons have been fired, but that's behind him now. And you know, I'm not sure his breathing is going to allow him to get back to that form that he was in then. But we've had him from, whereas when we ran him last time, we only had him a few weeks. We've actually had him for the whole training camp this time. So we've had him in from the field and done the whole thing. So I'm hopeful that we can get a bit of momentum, get a bit of confidence into him. And he did win a point-to-point for Jack Barber last season, actually. You know, he did win a point-to-point last season, so that was nice to see. And we had him shortly after that. But, you know, I'm just hopeful we can get him into some sort of form.
I mean, when you think all of what you said, I take that on board. But when you look at his mark of 104,
yeah,
and you think where some of those other lads are now,
yeah, I know.
Kind of, you'd have to be hopeful that he could,
it's just,
at least, you know,
he's the thing he's got to get over, and I'm sure he just didn't run his race. But what you've got to get over is it. I've never quite known Aidan Coleman come back me anything other than bright, breezy, and positive, and trying to look forward even in the dark days when they don't run too well. But he couldn't find anything good to say. He couldn't get away quick enough for Aidan, and that's very, very unusual. Which is why we rate him very, obviously, like everyone, we rate him very highly. But he's a very good chap to deal with, and he really. It was a real struggle. It was a really, really disappointing run. But I mean, look, we've got to put a line through that because it's horses.
Yeah, he deserves a chance to prove it. That wasn't his running, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And he jumped horrific that day. He'd been pointing, and I think he just kind of, it was a bit of a shock. And he's very big, and I think it was just. I'm not suggesting he's very big, so he'll love jumping fences because I don't think his chasing's necessarily his forte. But yeah, there's definitely got to give him another go, and definitely got to give him the benefit of the doubt, that's for sure, because he has got some good form in the book. So fresh training camp, and yeah, it'd be interesting.
All right, good luck. Fingers crossed with him. One that perhaps hasn't quite met expectations so far is Prince of Thieves.
Yeah, no, actually, to be fair, he was a young horse last season that we syndicated, and I got some people involved that had plenty of horses with me, thinking he was going to be, really nice. And he ran on a very, 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 very wet day at Frostlass. Even for Frostlass, he came out of the Merc and finished about 5th or 6th or something like that. And I was desperately disappointed with him, but then could easily forgive him that run. But didn't bother with any more bumpers. Just didn't quite give us the encouragement to run him any more bumpers. But he sort of gradually got the hang of things in his novice hurdle, started to finish all right, albeit nursed a little bit to get home. And then first handicap straight up to 3 miles, which was probably a mistake, the jump. Just convinced he wanted a bit more of a trip. And he ran very ordinary. I mean, we had to, I think it was nearly dark by the time we finished that last race. So then again, line through that, and we've given him he's only, we literally broke him in, got him going, ran him in his first bumper, ran him in all these novice hurdles, ran him in a handicap, and any horse should be given a bit more time after that. It was all in a bit of a flurry.
Yeah, it's happened in a bit of a flurry.
And we just got disappointed and kept kind of reacting with more experience. Like we just thought we'd just keep giving him more experience. And but the good thing was we didn't run him on any firm ground. We looked after him and we said, right, that's enough. We don't want to disappoint the owners anymore. We just stopped. Give him a summer out, bring him back, and at least if nothing else, he's got a really low starting point for his handicap this season.
Sure, he's rated 90 now.
Yeah, and I said to the owners, we give him 2 or 3 runs, and he's a nicely bred horse, beautiful looking horse.
What do you think in terms of sort of trip and ground?
I don't know, but it'd definitely be fair to judge him over 2.4, 2.5, good to soft.
Yep. Okay.
If he couldn't run well, he's not quite. Don't think he's speed enough for 2-mile handicap, so I think there'd be no excuses over 2.5 on good to soft ground. I wouldn't have thought, not really.
And where is he? When are we likely to see him?
About 3 weeks.
Okay, great.
Yeah. His
really
brother,
look forward to seeing
we're
him,
still
actually.
clinging on to the fact his brother, feathered player, I think that ran in a grade 3 the other day, and it's, I think it might have been, I think it was second in one of the big
It ran
handicaps.
second in a grade 2 to Plinth,
Yeah. So
according to the database.
and he didn't do it all immediately, and he has improved. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute this lad's ever going to be able to get up to that, but you always feel there's a chance, and
Yeah, well, I mean, Prince of Thieves has had 6 runs, and Feathered Player's first 6 were 9, pulled up, 7, 10, 3, 9, fell.
well, I didn't realise he was as bad as that, to be fair.
Yeah. So, but then then he got it together and he was third, beaten 10 lengths by Don Poli. So, but anyway, yeah, as you say, they've taken a bit of time to come to
Yeah,
themselves.
well, I've almost already sort of given him, just for the syndicate to know where they are. You don't want people to think they're going on forever. It's just kind of said, 2 or 3 runs between now and the middle of the season, and then we'll kind of make a decision then on him, really. How he's going. So I don't like to judge them too quickly, although, but on the other hand, I don't want people to get too, fed up.
Sure. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
But he has there's a nice mark, he has a lovely mark to play with, and, any horse who can get in 0 to 100 off sort of 11 stone, we ought to be competitive, surely. Should be.
Okay, well, fingers crossed for him. One with a much more obvious, although less exposed form profile. Not that Prince of Thieves is exposed, but Pure Vision has had only 1 run, and that was yesterday, and it was a cracker by any measure.
Yeah, he just travelled and lobbed along beautifully for his bumper there. Yeah, he'd been with us a while. I bought him as a store. Not the maid's gone, the maid before. We didn't run him last season. Everything went according to plan, but the ground went too quick, and we just that's an example of a 3-stroke 4-year-old that time around. That you can have them in for the season. We didn't run him. I own half of him. But yeah, he'd had 1 canter round a track, a race course. He'd had 1 quiet canter round last season and done nothing this season. Just worked on the gallop, and so he just did really, really well. Like, he really stuck his head out, really accelerated gradually, stayed on relentlessly, and just got done for a bit of that little injection of speed, got the winner away from us. But we drew 11 lengths clear of the third. He's a really stout. I wouldn't swap him for anything. In fact, I wouldn't swap him for anything in either division of that bumper. He's really stoutly bred. He ticks all the boxes. Milan, he's 16.2 plus. You've got also like Calling Brave, Ottawa, in his pedigree. It's a really stout national pedigree. He's out of an exit to nowhere Mare. So I just think he ticks all the boxes, and he's come out of the race really good. So I'm just praying that we'd be looking to sell him, to stay in the yard, and we hope we can find someone to take him on. But obviously, the amount these horses make as store horses, we're going to have to make sure we get a reasonable, good price for him.
Sure. I mean, it was a very exciting run, wasn't it? And
it was. Loads of
the right horses were third and fourth. The short price favourite was third. The second favourite was fourth, and the third was 11 lengths back, and had a favourite's ride. Let's say it was it had plenty of encouragement. Whereas your lad was just not chivied along, but he wasn't. He wouldn't have taken the same amount of encouragement as the favourite, and he'll be doing all his best work when he gets towards 3 miles, won't he? And in time, maybe over a fence.
Yeah, well, we already know we've done a hell of a lot. Although we haven't done, we could have done more sort of away trips with him, but we've done plenty of schooling with him, and we know just to kind of get just an overall picture of the horse, really, of his potential, and his jumping is just. He's got loads of skates of crackers. I mean, I just wish we had, if we could fill the yard up for have another 10 of those, but they are just difficult to find, and that's why when you find, as I say, you find a little cornet or a Pure Vision or something like that, all those 3 or 4, when you find one that just does the job like he did yesterday, you just have to, when they finally prove it, you have to make the most of that situation, and because they don't come around as quick as much as
as often as you'd like. No, sure. Okay, talking of good horses, Regal Encore has been a stable star for you for a few seasons now.
Yeah.
Won one of the Pertemps qualifiers last year and ran really, really well at the festivals.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about him for this season?
Yeah. Actually, he won that bumper that we ran in last year, a few years ago. So, I mean, I still watch it.
The one yesterday, you mean?
It's the same. We've actually won that bumper yesterday. It's never been divided. Well, in the last few years, it hasn't been divided. I think we'd won it 2 of the last 3 years and been second in it this year, or one of the divisions. But he won it, and I guess you think the winner of Pure Vision's bumper was, quite impressive. Yeah, his win, and it was a spine tingling. He just literally, it was unbelievable the way he won his bumper there.
Yeah.
You just knew he'd seen something very good.
He was ridden in last, wasn't he? And he came all the way through.
And then he actually flattened out and got shoved to kind of get there. And then when he got there, it was like he'd set a firework off. He suddenly was back on the bridle, and McCoy was looking between his legs after running, but absolutely rattling along. It was just, and I'd never seen sort of AP so animated after a race. He was really pleased with the horse. Really impressed with the horse. So anyway, from there on, he's there's been some flickers of brilliance along the way. He's run one on some Grade 3 handicap hurdles. He won his novice hurdle very well. And like you say, we had some lovely runs in the festivals this season. He just took we had a bit of a funny spell with him. He went up to Hexham and got beat after his good Plumpton win, and our horses were suffering from a virus at the time, and he did seem ever so quiet and ever so flat for him. Like, he was still quite keen, but he was pretty flat through that period.
Yeah, in fairness, Anthony, that was probably the best novice hurdle that's ever been run at Hexham, because the winner was See You at Midnight, who is a proper horse himself.
Yeah, I know. I still can't have it, but I know what you mean. Yeah, it was literally, how on earth you managed to bump into that at Hexham on that particular day. I'm not saying there's been lots of nice horses that will have won up there, but
in the same race on the same day.
London day, yeah. I couldn't. I mean, but that was fine, because that wasn't the end of the world at all. And he went to, he's been to other races since then, and he's run well, and he ran well. Like, as a result, his handicap mark didn't go through the roof initially, and he had a good run in the Imperial Cup, but just like I say, there was just something, just a little element missing out of him, and I think slowly but I think it really has taken time for him to shake the effects of that off. I really do. There was a few horses at that time, and that season we struggled our way through it. We still did okay, but we struggled our way through it. So we just felt like we're gradually getting him in back to doing something, doing that bit better. I mean, I was really pleased with the Chase debut the other day. It was hot on novice chase you're going to see outside of the Kempton Christmas meetings and things like that. I think I don't know how you're going to get horses as good as that together. All in that race. They're all seriously nice horses, and he got a bit outpaced and then stayed on really nicely.
The trip would have been on the short side, wouldn't it? 2.25.
Yeah, on his hurdles form, you would say so. But
Probably want a bit further.
I'd say it'd be okay for him. Really, it was just really coming down that hill, and the ground was just nice, But they really sort of quickened up, and it was a good experience for him. And hopefully he'll learn from it. He seemed to take to the job. That was the main thing. And
he was quite clever when he wasn't just good.
Yeah, no,
and he ran on through the line well as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I was happy enough with him, and in fact he's not the level of those, but he's got some. There's he's a nice horse, and he's still got some good days ahead of him. Hopefully, we just need get that experience over fences, and hopefully he'll take us to some nice places for the season.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his last few runs last season, and he does look to be a horse that maybe shows his best in the spring.
Yeah, he definitely. As the season went on, his confidence. I mean, because actually, when you look at it, he ran shocking in the. That's probably the worst he's ever run in the Greatwood. We had a hood on him that day, which I thought was a very good idea. Like it was a team decision. We thought, we'll put a hood on him, and that won't do any harm and shape him. And I think it was just a coincidence. On that very day, he just ran bloody awful. You know, really, really flat. And
he's got very few clunkers on what is a quite impressive scorecard, and I think, you know, whatever he did at the weekend at Chepstow, he's a horse to be quite excited about. This season.
Definitely showed. I was just pleased that he has a future over fences. That was all I was concentrating on. You know, the fact that he jumped nicely, and he, you know, I was worried for a minute when he got behind and out of the picture, but he sort of kept himself to go, and he got a second wind and ran on nicely, and so that was really good. Yeah, really pleased with him.
Yeah. Okay. Another one who potentially going chasing this season? Question mark. Ruqueen Sauvage.
Yeah, we just got tight. Bottomless ground is what she wants. We've learnt that. I still think there was AP rode her. She won 2 hurdle races last season. Rachel gave her. First one was very surprising. Just first time in a handicap over. I think it was over 2 that day.
Was 2 miles, at Chepstow.
She just bolted that, right, and I didn't expect it just to click like that, and she just was a different mare straight away. I mean, it wasn't a very, can't have been a very good race, but she did just click immediately. Didn't quite follow up, and then AP rode her a couple of times, and I'm sure she'd win Lingfield one day. She has been a bit in and out, because like that was a total bog, and she just tanked and then didn't really do anything right. I thought it was a perfect trip, perfect ground, perfect track. But then Rachel rode her again next time out, and she just went sweet as a nut again, and just crept through and just nudged away and won it nicely. So as a consequence, the handicap mark hasn't gone, you know, I suppose it's gone up. I suppose she has gone up a fair bit. She was 93, I think, on debut, and she's now
112.
112. So I suppose it has gone up a fair bit just for the 2 wins she's had, but it hasn't perhaps rocketed because of a bit of inconsistency. So it'd be interesting. Yeah, novice handicap chase early November would be the plan, possibly.
So you go straight into a handicap with her off that
I'd
mark?
have to. I think, if there was a mare's beginner's chase over 2 miles and a bit of soft ground, I'd be all over it. I'd be really up for that. But there aren't, and
sure.
There are a couple of mares 0 to 122 mile 4 events around. There's one around Bangor, so I suppose they'd be tempting. But I think ideal scenario: 2 mile to 2-3, heavy ground, gallopy sort of track where horses are coming back to you rather than kind of accelerating. She's better when she can just lob and horses are just kind of coming back to her.
Yeah, that's how she won at Chepstow that day when she was a bit of a surprise package, wasn't it? She travelled through them.
She did pick up quite nicely that day, but they did to some degree fall in a lap as well. Okay,
but she definitely wants soft ground and 2 miles.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, none of that. Right. She'd stretch it out to 2.5 if she had to in the right race. She'd stretch out, but so she's a little bit inconsistent last season, but she's
she's done all her best work for Rachel. Rachel's not? Has she stopped riding now? Or?
Yeah, she has, yeah.
Royal Salute.
Royal Salute, yeah. Racing Club, probably quite a good young horse to have in the Racing Club. I'm looking to bring on maybe at least a really nicely bred youngster to go to bumpers with for the Racing Club. But this lad, we actually ran him in the... So he is of that kind, of that type, but... he's just proving very backward. Like he ran quite nicely in one bumper last season, finished 5th at Exeter. I was pleased with that because Noel rode her, Noel Feely, and he kind of quite liked him, and he went nicely that day. Just very gawpy, very backward. We haven't had many more backward than him.
He's nicely bred, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
He's well bred.
And actually, it's the same. The chap that bred, the chap that produced him. Let's say, I'm not sure if he bred Regal Encore, but he Robert Robinson, he's had some very nice horses through his hands, and Distillery Stud, he sold me Regal Encore, and then I suppose we got to know each other that way, and then he had this horse, and you know the hope was he'd win his bumper, and we'd sort of sell him, and you know work along those lines. But he ran well in his first. He ran awful in his first bumper. Ran but Richard Johnson again quite liked him. Ran him.
Yeah, he was odds on that
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
wasn't
and
he?
he
Just
actually
hated
said, look,
ground, heavy ground.
oh, he just had put a line for it. He didn't know what to do and stuff, but he actually felt quite nice, he said. And then ran him actually ran nicely, better again, came out of the race fresh as paint again, just didn't know what to do and stuff. And again, at Doncaster, sorry, at Newbury, in the DBS £50,000 sales race, yeah, he hasn't Aidan rode him and said he went quite nicely, thought he had a real good chance turning in, didn't really go anywhere. But he, again, the horse was fresh as paint straight after the race, and I just don't think he's got a clue. He just hopefully he'll be all right. You know, long and short of it is, I think there's plenty of potential there. He's got. I see him winning a novice handicap chase. Probably what I see him winning. But we're going to have to go hurdling. Hope he shows a bit over hurdles first.
And you own him and
I
lease
leased
him to
him
the club,
from Robert Robinson, but he's basically Robert's kind of just, you know, we just got to roll with it now, and I think he'll be a useful horse to take us around in the racing club, and hopefully he'll win a few races, and you know, hopefully one day he'll still be a good horse and a valuable horse one day, but he's just at the minute he's still quite gawpy.
Yeah. Okay. Another royal native. What can you tell us about?
Yeah, though only quite a small horse, 15-3. He's been a good servant. He's been consistent at staying trips. Likes good to soft. Won 2 last season, including a 3-mile novice handicap chase at Exeter. Jumped well, better and better as the race went on that day. So he'll be looking at staying extended 3-mile chases. There are a couple round extra over 3.5, and could be one over 3.6 around there.
Right. Okay. He'll stay that far, you think?
I think so. I think he'll stay any trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He's been really consistent actually.
He has actually.
He's won 3.
Yep.
But he's been second 5 times as
Yeah.
well. So he's been
He'd be a good
8 of 20. He's been in the first 2.
Yeah, he'd be very. What's the right word? When he hits, he is. I mean, he's one round front well, so he does show a little bit of zip as well. But he's a good traveller, but he'd be vulnerable as a word. Look, he'd be vulnerable when he hits the front, not because he pulls himself up in front. He just hits that kind of one-pace gallop. He's always vulnerable to something that can find that half a gear. But he can set a good gallop and put them all to sleep before that is a worry.
And his last 2 wins have been in fairly small fields as well, so maybe that you know, there are less rivals.
I mean,
for
he
him
can set a reasonably good gallop. He just doesn't have that extra little gear, but this is why he's had quite a lot of seconds. But he's been a really good horse.
You'd be delighted to own a horse like that.
Oh, he's a machine of a horse at home.
His overall profile is fantastic.
Yeah, his work at home, if you want, he'd be very, very good. His work at home. So So.
All right, and he staying chases. What sort of
mix
ground?
And match, but I'll probably try and go with chasing and stay with chasing until we've worked out where he lies in that, and then if we need to go back to hurdles for a confidence boost or something, we can do.
Right. Okay. Good. One who ran up a sequence and then had some time off, looked a very nice prospect, is Solstice Son.
Yep. Oh yeah. So
he's coming back this season.
Yeah, really. Again, I mean, it did well in a bumper, won well, a galloper, nice big scopy horse, won 3 season before last. He's had a bit of time out. He pulled his shoe off and he strained his tendon. I'm not really sure how he did it, whether he whacked it or whether it was just a general tendon strain. So he's had that time off, and we're just bringing him back now to go. I mean, he had 2 runs and chases last season. Like I say, he had a shoe came off, or he strained his tendon one way or the other. He'd be going for probably a handicap hurdle this season before going back to revisiting fences. I want to give him 1 run in a hurdle just to kind of get his eye in again.
He's showing all the old zip, is he?
Yeah, he's a young horse still. Like and his legs are looking really good now. It was just unlucky. I'm sure he just whacked it. But either way, it's just a speed strain or a whack, it doesn't really matter. It's the same difference a year messing around. And we're only not even had a year yet, so I've got to be a bit careful. You know, we just want to give it, because the young horse, that's fine to have a year out, because it happens to lots of horses, but I don't want to kind of come back and then too soon. You know, I want to make sure I've given him time.
Sure.
I might wait till March to run in the handicap hurdle if I need to, and then we can then reassess. See if we might run in a beginner's chase, say beginning of May, on a bit of safe ground, so he's novice for the whole year.
He'd be looking at his winning form. He's won on soft and he's won on good, so he'd be relatively versatile there. So you could wait perhaps until a bit later in the season and still have some ground that would suit him well enough.
Yeah, and May's actually not a bad month. If you get a bit of rain, you can get a bit of safe ground in May. He's fine on anything from sort of good through to, well, I mean, he loves good to firm ground, but I mean, I don't know if I'd risk that, but good ground through to good to soft, he'd be fine. He'd run his race.
Sure. I know some of the boys in the syndicate there, they've been pretty patient, but
yeah,
they've got a really nice
horse.
Well,
they've had everything.
They
had everything. They had everything in a rush, and it all happened brilliantly. He won his bumper when the syndicate was just about formed. There's maybe, I think there might have been a share or two left when he won his bumper, but it was near enough formed. He won his bumper, that sorted it all out. He won easily, and then he later in the season, I think from March onwards, he won at Plumpton, and Chock said, Chock Thornton said, you know, a really nice horse. He won really well, and then he just he went on and won 2 more quite quickly, and in fact he won his 3rd in a row in about
10 days after the first.
Yeah, Chock said he won that more impressive than the first one. You know, and he said I should run it tomorrow as well at Newbury, but it was like a 16-runner race at Newbury for about 3,500 to 4,000. I was like, well, not possible. We don't need
not
that.
Fair,
so we didn't bother, but yeah, and then he did really well over fences. You know, he slipped a bit at Fontwell into 1 and lost a bit of confidence there, and then finished second and stayed on well, ran a really nice race at Exeter, but obviously just feeling something. It wasn't quite stretching out.
He was only beaten. He was beaten less than 10 lengths there, and that was a Gasline boy won it, and he was a big improver last season.
No,
so
and also you've got to remember they took out they took out
all the fences in the back straight.
Yeah, it was a real pain. Yeah, I was really annoyed, and it always annoys me when they do that intensely.
Because his jumping is a
and I almost felt like just going in the stewards room saying, pull it out, non-runner, because it's not what you go in it for. It's not what, you know, it's not. It's got to be safe. I know I just don't remember it when I was riding, and it seems to have got more and more of an issue. But I think the jockeys are on board with it. I think they all kind of, it's very well accepted now. When it is like that, you've just got to take them out. But it's still frustrating. And it kind of made it a different type of race, really. But it's a good run, yeah. And he's a very nice horse, loads of upside to him, loads of scope, good stride, positive horse. So can't wait to get him back.
We'll be waiting a little bit longer before we see him, but it should hopefully be worth the wait.
Yeah. Very
good. Just a couple left. Tara Drew.
Yeah. We've now won 5 of her. Found a bit of form, has finally worked out that we seem to have found a bit more improvement by dropping her back to 2.5 and 2.5. I had a look. It does pay really sometimes to review their form, because you do forget. I mean, we know the horses we have, we think we know well, but you'd like to think you would know them inside out. But, you know, I reviewed their form again. I thought, why, you know, her best ever run, going back over history, was over 2.5 at Fontwell, you know, a year and a half ago or whatever it was. So I thought, well, it's not going to hurt to drop that to 2.5. She'd won over 3. You know, we'd won some little races with her over 3, but dropped her back, and she just showed a good old gear around Worcester and won really well. So we've kept her back there a little bit more. Went to 2.5 at Fontwell, and again went back to Fontwell and won really well, like she did there over a year before. So yeah,
she's gone up. She's gone up in the weights a bit for that. She's 127 now.
Yeah,
so
fair enough. You can't always complain. You know, she's won a couple of races and she's gone up, and I'm sure as always they've probably overreacted, but equally, if you're going into, I'm probably going to run on the 21st at Fontwell in a £10,000 0 to 135. I suppose the answer is, do I think she can run in it, and do I think she's got a chance? And I do think she'll have a chance. So maybe you can't really say handicap is overreacted if you think you're going to.
No.
But I suppose that's just off the bat. The fact that I suppose she's won her last couple, and you feel your confidence.
Sure, and that would be the same trip as she won there last time?
So there's other things I could have gone for, changing this and changing that and higher grade and go here or there, but I thought I'm just going to go, I'm not going to experiment too much. I'm just going to go back. What I know is, I know they're her conditions. If the ground's no softer than good to soft, then we can judge her fairly on that. We can say where she is at the minute. And,
she's quite versatile in terms of ground as well. She's one on soft.
Yeah,
and good.
But it's not soft as you know it. That's the thing. It's soft in the summer. It's just.
Oh right, summer soft.
Yeah, it really is a different. It is a different type of ground. But yeah.
But also she can be ridden fairly handily or out the back. And
very straightforward mare like that. And her jumping's got. I don't think I'll ever try over fences again. I think I only tried it once, and to be fair, you should never give up just like that. But I just thought, I had a few niggly problems with her. I got a sound. I didn't want to risk her over fences again and not find out where we were. So I think her hurdling has got really, really good now, and I think that's just what she is. I think we just got to keep her safe and sound and keep her over hurdles. And she's getting old enough now that
she's done really well at that discipline. So
I just don't think it's never felt like it's her game, and I suppose on the one day we tried it, she kind of proved it wasn't. That I just think, you can never write a horse off, for one day when she nearly tipped up at one and unseated Aiden, you can't really. But I just want to see how far she can go over hurdles, and we have had a few niggly, silly little problems with her over the whole season, but she's kept coming back sound, and for the most part, she is a very sound animal, to be fair, and we've gone on a bit of a roll with her now, so we'll try again.
Yeah, good. Two left, a pie horse, as I call them, Victor Serenade, whose form consists largely of ones and P's.
Yeah, very.
He's very good on his day, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he won a good race last year. We're just going to basically get him ready and target a 3-mile soft, heavy ground handicap first time out, and he seems to always run well fresh. So that's what we do. He doesn't owe us really anything. He's won 5, and we just always felt like we could win a big race with him. And we did win quite a very nice race with him last season at Chepstow, but beat Monmouth Dude that day. But I'm just hopeful we can have one last crack at a good race first time out, and see if we can win one of those. And then after that, it's a bit of a job. I don't know if we can get consistency, but we're hoping he'll run well on his first start anyway.
Yeah. Okay, good. But he must have heavy ground or soft ground, mustn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't bottomless when he won.
It was good to soft at Chepstow.
Yeah, it wasn't really. I mean, it was barely soft enough for him, but he, let's just say, I don't think he needs, we always thought he was a 3-mile 5 as far as you want, but no, he doesn't really. 3-mile soft ground's fine, and if it went heavy, it'd be fine as well. He'd cope with anything.
Yeah, he's been a great horse.
Yeah, he was £5,000.
One last hurrah.
Store horse I bought for 5,000, and he's one of our longest serving owners, Mike and Angela Bone. They've been great supporters, and he was kind of they bought him just to kind of help me along and just buy another one to get in the yard, and they deserve everything, all the success they've had. They've been very good supporters. So
sure, great. And last and hopefully not least is a horse called the GG's GG, which of course it will be well known to at least some readers and listeners. He's done really well. He's won a couple. He's been very, very unlucky not to have won more than a couple. But what can you tell us about his prospects this season?
Yeah, I'm very, very hopeful for this season. I really think we're on the front foot, hopefully, and we can see where he can go. I mean, we'll be starting off. So kind of mentioned it earlier. He was third in a bumper at Frost last. He won a bumper at Frost last, and he sort of he won his handicap debut at Taunton over 3 miles, which I was absolutely convinced was his trip. And we started to hit our heads against the brick wall at 3 miles, albeit on kind of rain-softened ground, hill there. Market Raisin, certainly at Catterick it was, and then Market Raisin.
Catterick, yeah.
Market
that was 3 1/4 at Catterick as
well.
well.
It was, yeah. I just thought he'd win.
I mean, he travelled really well, and then, actually, he kicked a couple out of the ground at the top of the hill, but then he came back on the bridle, and you thought, okay, this looks good.
Yeah.
But then didn't quite get home.
No. He and then we gave him nice breaks. He'd been all the way to catch it by himself, and it was a hard old. He was edgy there, and it was a long old day for him. So we gave him a good break and a bit better ground. I think it was at Market Raisin, a bit better for him definitely, and did everything right, and again fell short and just ran very, very well, but just
flattened out a bit.
Solid run, but just disappointed. He didn't come home that well. I thought, well, you got something else going on here. We should be worried about. He's not getting home. And then, but everyone, yourself and particularly Ryan Marr was saying, drop him back in trip, just try him, because I think that's not as good as he is. I think, how he's running is fine, but that's not the peak of his powers, and then dropped him back.
He was giving him the feel of a better horse.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, just the feel he was giving, the way he was jumping, and the way he was doing everything felt like a better horse than that. And obviously we dropped him about 2.5 at Worcester, and got really, was ridden really nicely there, and then we had a little blip at the last hole there, which should never have happened, but it's a risky take, I suppose. And I was a big fan of the lad Harry Cobden riding him, and Salam, and just unfortunately he got his experience at your cost. I mean, I was kind of
these things happen. The thing was that
I've been there and done it in that situation. So.
But we learnt that day that he had plenty of toe for 2.5 anyway.
Yeah.
And he looked, to all intents and purposes, the winner going into that flight. So whilst it was, from a personal perspective, it was a pretty brutal experience, we did learn something, and it's quite exciting to see him travel. So there were 16 runners in that, and he travelling all over them coming to the last.
Yeah, and he rode the horse brilliantly. It was just there all the way up the straight. He was on the outside there, coming there, brought him into it beautifully, and you could just see there was a bit of room on the right, and he just kind of was having a little bit of a look, and he just needed correcting quickly, and it would have been a non-issue, but that was fine anyway. It happened, but then I was thinking, well, would he have? I'm sure he was going to win, but I was just like, would he have galloped on strongly after the last, or would we have, just faded a bit? And then if I was in any doubt, we ran him at Sutherland. We got in traffic problems off the top bend, and all he did then is gallop and gallop and gallop all the way home over 2:04.5. So I thought, well, I now know that, absolute certainty he would have won the Worcester race because of the way he galloped home at Seville. But
yeah, he got shuffled right back to last on that home turn, and then had to take the long way around the outside.
Yeah. And again,
winner had gone, hadn't it? And
again, like it's that tricky sort of track. It can happen.
Well, it's tough luck,
Yeah.
We
were happier with that one. It was just tough luck.
Tuck it up twice,
it was just
didn't we?
tough luck. We could never really find our position. We were never really happy where we were, and the race kind of was just controlled from the front, and we just couldn't get out. But it's fine, and just hoping he's come back in really good nick, and he's really ready for a run. So just as soon as we get safe ground, we'll be running him.
Yeah, there's a possible race at Fosslas. They're still reporting good to soft there, aren't they, on Saturday?
Yeah,
but
I looked up
it's a dry week, and
yeah, I looked up good to soft this morning, but I don't know if that's updated this morning. Well, it wasn't updated this morning, so whether it's been updated since then, it'll be updated very soon anyway.
Mind you, if they have a shower, it'll be heavy. So
yeah.
We'd have half a chance. And of course, he's won on that track and run well the other time he ran there as well. So
yeah.
It would suit him well enough. If the ground is right, we'd be quite hopeful.
Yeah, and I think there's fences to come as well. I'd like to win a sort of a nice little handicap somewhere, and then aim for something a bit flashy where you can just go and I just like to get that chalk another win up with them, and then just have a little fire a shot at something really flashy, and just go there thinking, well, you know, have a go at something decent while he's still potentially got a mark that we can, you know, we've got a bit of room to manoeuvre with.
Yeah. Well, we're very, very hopeful anyway, and you know, obviously racehorses, anything can and generally does happen with them. But we'd be forgiven for thinking that we might have had most of our bad luck already. But again, there are no guarantees of these things. So anyway, Anthony, you've been extremely generous with your time. Thank you very much for that. I hope listeners have got some value out of this, and again, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your hopes for the season with us.
Thank you. No problem.